What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Fanatics. I'm your host, Ferran, here again with my man Vito. And today, pretty anticipated episode, pretty anticipated review of, well, depending on how you feel about the film, of Captain America Brave New World. This has been one of my most anticipated films of the year. I may have mentioned that in the previous episode at some point, how much I was looking forward to this just because of the brand name of Captain America, the weight that holds in the MCU, three very high quality films before this. So you slap the word Captain America on an MCU film, people are expecting pretty high quality filmmaking. And also just to see someone different in the role now. Like Chris Evans had his run, a great run, and some very big shoes to fill. And while we're familiar with Anthony Mackie's Falcon character, we haven't really seen him be the central focus in anything. Even Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he had to share the spotlight with another character. So this is really the first time we've seen the story really evolve around his character and kind of seeing what that would look like. And to give some brief initial thoughts before we get into the deeper review, I saw a lot of the chatter that was going around, a lot of the reviews that this film was getting before. I was trying my best to avoid it just because I usually don't like watching reviews of films before I watch them because I don't want having anyone else's opinion in my ear to inform it. Like the only exception would be like if a Madam Web situation where people are just saying like, don't watch this. That's probably the only time where I'll watch a review beforehand.
And
But
at some
other than
point, we
that,
gotta watch that movie.
no, we don't. Well, actually, yes, we do. Actually, yes, we
It's
do.
gotta happen.
Yeah, I need to consume some green medicine and watch that movie for sure. um, I will say based on what I saw from Brave New World, I don't really see what other people are saying as far as their criticism of this film. I mean, like just to put it into context, Brave New World is currently rated lower on IMDb than the following MCU movies: Captain Marvel,
Which one? The first one, the second one?
the first one, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We all know how bad that movie was.
That was bad.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Thor: The Dark World.
I liked it.
I didn't. And hold on, this is the big whammy. I'm about to see if it's rated lower than this other film that I think is rated lower than. It is currently rated lower than Black Widow.
Yeah,
Yes, you
that's
read that
crazy.
correctly.
That's crazy.
Yes,
That's
yes,
crazy.
yes.
And
So just
again,
to put it into
I
context,
I didn't hate Black Widow, but it was not a good movie.
at all.
It should not have been made. It was useless to the overall MCU story. So to rate it lower than that one is I mean that's so
It's
like I said
nuts, ain't
last
it?
last time I seen it the rating it was rated I think they said the first Avenger Captain America First Avenger was 7.3 when it came out or
Hmm.
7.6 and then Captain America Brave New World was like 7.2 7.3 so it again and like you said we're looking at this I haven't seen a lot of reviews I've actually been dodging them for that reason.
Yeah,
We talked about this in the past when it's not a when it's not a white man as the main actor. There is a large population of or small or large, however you consider it, of nerds that hate it.
I feel like it's a vocal majority of nerds. Like because I don't know. I feel like it's the nerds who voice their opinion the loudest, and you just don't have it supplemented with like other people who
Enough.
are into. Yeah, you just
Yeah.
don't have it supplemented with enough people who are into this type of stuff to also voice their opinion to counteract it. Because we're chilling. You know what I'm saying? Like we're just consuming the art, whereas these people all have an additional gripe outside of just the quality of the film. Because don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Brave New World is a perfect movie by any
Right.
means. There are things wrong with it, and there are things you can fairly criticize. But when I'm seeing reviews come in for this film that are lower than Black Widow, that's when my eyebrows start to raise and I go like, were y'all really judging this film based on the quality of the film itself? Or were y'all mad that someone of a different skin color now is playing Captain America?
And on top of that, like you said, like even that nerd thing is, it's not even. people that is going to go watch the movie. You got
Yeah.
people that don't care about the Marvel movies that are complaining, and
Yes.
again, you hear them because of that.
Yeah.
That's not Captain. Well, if Captain America gave him his shield and he said, "Hey, you're Captain America now," that makes him Captain America. And even in the comics, that is something that
Falcon was Captain America
occurs.
at one point. Yes.
So the again, we know what their hatred is. Like you said, I'm not saying it was a fucking just knockout movie. I actually I rate it higher than Captain America: The First Avenger. Definitely higher, but not that much
Hmm.
higher.
Okay.
Again,
That's a take.
I've said it before. I hated that first Avenger movie.
You did say that. Yeah, that's fair.
I did not enjoy it. I think it was honestly. I don't think it was crucial to the story. We could have did without it.
Hmm.
I feel like that was like doing a whole Spider-Man. How did this happen again?
Yeah.
And again, that's just me because I know how Captain America came to be. A lot of people didn't, but we didn't need a whole movie on it.
Yeah.
Um,
And you don't like period pieces too, so there's also
hate
that.
hate them, hate
Yeah,
them.
there's also that. You're kind
But
of predisposed to not liking that movie.
but
Um,
yeah, like I said, I rated higher, but not much higher. I think it was a solid movie, and
mhm.
this is something else we talked about before. I think it really is just a okay movie, and I think that I think the problem is people are expecting um, Endgame, and they're expecting Civil War, and they're expecting Age of Ultron. Everyone is expecting every single Marvel movie to be a knockout. And again, I mean, if you want to look, we can really look at it this way. This is a new introduction to the franchise. Yes, it is a. I mean, we've seen this character before. Yes, we've seen him. We've seen Captain America before, and we've seen Sam Wilson before, but we've never seen Sam Wilson as Captain America. Um, and again, when you watching the movie and you see the goal of this movie, before we were guessing, we said, what are they going to do with this? What are they going to do with that? This movie came out, and even if they didn't mention it to the very end of the movie, or they placed little key things throughout the movie to let you know this is how we're going to rebuild the MCU.
Yeah.
Because the MCU, I mean, people they keep making MCU things, but the MCU as a whole is not together. And people have said that, everyone has said that, and I think Feige realizes that, and the writers and people aren't looking at it as um, this is going to be the beginning. They're looking at it as this is a piece in a already long history of things. But that again, that's not what it is. The Avengers are gone; they do not exist anymore. And for the MCU, I mean, even in some of the comics, the Avengers are the flagship team at this point. And there's no Captain America. There's a new thing. So I think it was a solid movie. I liked it, but it could have been better. We talked about that. There was some things I didn't like. There was some things I did like. But it was a very again, it's okay with the movie just being okay. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be spectacular. It's not something that I'm looking at thinking, hey, this deserves a few Oscars or Emmys for this and this. It's a good movie to sit down and watch. Just enjoy the fucking movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. But my problem with that sentiment though of it just being okay is it has the name Captain America on it. That's why it's like part of I'm torn on. I haven't watched a lot of reviews, but I've seen enough of the feedback. I've seen the Rotten Tomato scores. I've seen some small
Yeah.
indicators of how the public is feeling about this film, and part of it pushing the racial angle aside because that is a part of the conversation, like we just have to, because that is a part of why this film's
And
getting the amount of hate it's
that's
getting.
honestly, it's a
Yeah,
big issue.
it is, but on the flip side there is also the expectation that a lot of fans, including myself, have of if you've watched the Captain America films and you understand the quality that those are at, when you put the name Captain America on something, I'm expecting a certain level of film. I'm expecting like an 8 out of 10 at minimum. At bare minimum, I'm expecting an 8 out of 10 when you put the name Captain
I'll
America
say
on
after the
something.
first one, yes. So
I like
Captain
the first
America
one
two,
though.
Captain America two
So,
and three.
yeah,
You putting an 8 on it, I'm like, got it, cool. But
yeah,
again, this isn't that Captain America, and that's what
true.
You
but it
know,
is still that franchise, and it is
and
still a character from those previous Captain America
but even with
movies.
that one, so even
You know what I'm
you, I
saying?
know you don't rate you. I know you don't even with you liking the first Avenger, you don't rate it as high as 2 and 3.
No,
So
it's
that's
not as good as 2 and 3, but it's still a very
that,
good
and
movie
that's what I'm
to
saying. You
me.
know,
You know what I'm saying?
when
So
we get this next Captain America movie, or have
you saying
hopefully,
2 and 3 gonna knock it out the park?
oh,
So,
I think they're gonna knock the shit out,
you
especially
say
with
Captain America 5 and 6 is what I need to wait on to
listen,
get. Okay.
especially with the little Easter eggs that are littered throughout the movie,
Hmm.
and especially at the end of the movie, which we'll talk about.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a lot more for Sam Wilson to do as Captain America.
I hope so.
I
And he
also
needs the
think
serum badly.
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
I don't want him to have the serum. I would like to see him without the serum,
After
but
what I
but
watched, he needs it.
he got his ass beat.
A
But
regular a
I
regular person power bombed him. Like I
I
was not okay
also
with
think,
that.
was that you talking about at the beginning of the movie?
Yes, I was
Okay,
like, nah, Captain America
so
can't get power bombed by a regular dude. I'm sorry.
so
You need
I,
the serum, bro. You need the serum. I'm sorry.
but I'll
That's
also say,
unacceptable.
you made me forget what I was about to say with him
Cause that
being
shit just
power
bothered me
bombed.
so
And
much.
what I was gonna say is, what I say, Captain America.
You
He
were
needed
talking
that.
about
Oh,
the.
he needed a different villain. I think
You think so? Okay.
I think having the leader as the main villain was I think even for Captain America, Steve Rogers to have the leader as a main villain was a lot. It would have been a lot. It wouldn't be, he wouldn't be getting his ass beat like Sam was,
Mm-hmm.
or they would have powered. They would have made, again, the Serpent Society, which in this movie they're just called the Serpent, or Serpent. And I think they tell us what it means, but it's so just insignificant that
Yeah, it's not a big part of the story at
you
all.
don't care. I really did not care about Serpent at all. They wanted us to care with Giancarlo
Giancarlo Esposito. Yeah,
Esposito. They wanted us to care.
the
They
only
didn't
reason
give.
I cared. That's the only reason.
That's it.
Yeah.
The big guy that came in at the end. I think they said he was supposed to be one of the serpents, and the wrestler from WWE, Seth Rollins, had a role in the movie as one of the
The Serpents. Yeah, I think his
serpents.
role got removed though.
They
I
got
do remember
removed, and
those reports. Yeah.
there was another actor, it was a female actor who had a role in a movie as well, got removed. So they would have powered them up somehow to
Mm-hmm.
give them a fighting chance against Captain America. With Sam, you don't have to.
Yeah, you
But
don't.
again, to have the leader as I don't think it's a lot of people that can have the leader as a villain. I
Yeah.
mean, the Hulk's whole thing with the leader is he's stronger than them, and the leader, as much as smart as the leader is, he always underestimates how strong the Hulk is, and the Hulk ends up overpowering him. And this one just seemed like I'm smart, but I don't think this nigga gonna do nothing. I don't think this nigga
Yeah.
cares this much. It's like
Yeah.
you don't know
I
who Sam Wilson is then.
yeah. No, I agree. I think the now that we're on to the leader, I did not like his design for
I
one.
hated it.
I did
Hated it.
not I was not a fan of his design at all. Two, I think he was a fine. I actually think he was a decent villain for Sam Wilson because he's not an overpowering villain, right? Like I think because he's not a villain that's like physically intimidating or someone who's like going to squabble up and actually fight with the hero for real. I think he works as a villain for Sam Wilson, who is, yes, he's Captain America, but he doesn't have superpowers, at least at the current moment in time. So I
So let
think
me stop you just real quick.
for that, I think the leader works because of who this new Captain America is.
It's one person who I think we've already used in the movies that would have been better.
Who?
What did Buddy call himself? Ends up becoming Modoc. Who was the computer in
Oh, Ivan. Not Zolov. You talking about
was he
who you talking
Zoloff,
about?
or he becomes
The dude
Modoc
that became Modoc was the villain in
in
the
this?
first or second Ant Man. Those the Ant Man movies run together for me at this
I'm
point. It was
thinking.
one of the Ant Man
So
movies.
I'm thinking about, but in the second Captain America movie, when they're in the bunker,
Yeah, that's
that was Zoloff, right?
yeah, that's Zolov. Yes.
I think he would have been obviously not as a computer, but essentially it's the same person.
Yeah.
It's this smart person running calculations. And I think I think it would have been better if we would have had another a spy thriller like
Yeah.
Captain America 2 was. I think
That's
that would
what I
have made
really
this
thought
movie
this was going to be, honestly.
and you know what? It had some elements of it, but it just
Not
didn't.
it. Yeah,
It
it
didn't
didn't lean into
capture
it.
it.
Yeah,
Honestly, every situation that Sam ended up getting out of, he punched his way out of.
yeah, yeah. This definitely lacked the espionage angle that I think made Captain America 2 so good. Part of the problem with that is, I think the side characters aren't as strong. Like the
Oh
side
yeah,
characters in Captain America 2 are Black Widow and then Falcon, and then they're fighting against the Winter Soldier. There's a lot of things that work outside of just Captain America, and Nick Fury's
right.
in it. So the side characters were a lot stronger in that film. Outside of the only characters in this film that I found even mildly that I was mildly interested in, Sam Wilson aside, because he's the main character, is obviously Isaiah Bradley, number one. Number two, Harrison Ford as Thunderbolt Ross, and the leader, and Giancarlo Esposito fourth.
What about
But
the
like the
widow?
two characters that had the most screen time outside of them, i.e., the Black Widow, 99 Cent Black Widow, and Hispanic Falcon, like
So
outside,
so this is my thing. I know
like
they
they're
mentioned
just
in
not interesting characters.
they mentioned in somebody mentioned in some of the comics that the widows are super soldiers. Um,
Really, I didn't know that.
and I don't know if you seen that fight scene when they were in the White House when she threw Buddy across the room. No,
She did throw down a little
I
bit. I was
I
like, what?
bro,
What red room was she in?
she wrapped her arm around Buddy when she hit the ground, and he flew across the room, and I'm like, okay, Sam seen that. First of all, I didn't know whose side she was on at first, but
Yeah,
when he got to it, I'm like, okay, he's seen that. Um, but they're going to mention her strength at some point. They're going to mention her strength, and they did not.
well, they
Again,
did not at
I
all.
I like the movie, but I feel like there are so many other villains that would have worked better in this movie. I think uh I think Taskmaster would have worked in this movie.
Taskmaster would have definitely worked in this
Um,
movie, actually.
I
A
think
comic accurate Taskmaster, just to
yeah,
be clear,
I think
not what we got.
I think a lot more people would have worked better than that. I don't
Ta-
think we should have had him alone as an Avenger. Somebody else should have showed up at some point, even if it's one of these new Avengers that they want to push
yeah,
forward. I
when
think
when
that
the
was
president turns into a Hulk, I agree. When the president of the United States turns into a Hulk, I agree. Falcon should not be the only person responding to
the
that.
whole time I'm
I will
thinking,
100% agree.
here comes here comes Hulk. Hulk's gonna pop up. Hulk's gonna pop up. Hulk's gonna
Nope.
somebody stronger than this person, regular person. Again, we
Yeah.
know he got Wakanda tech, and we're jumping around a bit, but there's no way. Again, I don't think him him talking him down would have worked. Like I said,
Yeah.
I have issues. I still like the movie, but like I said, I think there are so many better things that would have worked in this movie than
Yeah.
how they put it out.
Facts. I think
And
the main flaws, honestly, are like to just give like I guess a synopsis. To me, the main flaws are the side characters.
I hear that.
They're not the only that most of them don't really capture you, or the ones that do don't have enough screen time.
Like
And
who
then
are you thinking?
Isaiah Bradley does not have enough screen time.
No, and he's a central part of
He's an important part of the
the
story,
story.
but
So
there's a certain cutoff point where he's just
you
essentially not in
don't
the
see him
movie
at
anymore.
all. Like
Yeah, there's a cutoff point where he's essentially not in the film anymore. But he is an important part on kicking the movie off and getting events
yeah,
headed in where they are. But he's not involved enough. Is for as interesting as his character is, he's not involved enough for me. So the side characters for one. Two, I did not like the execution of the villain. I don't mind the leader being the villain in this case. I didn't like his appearance or how he was executed. That's my personal preference
he
there.
looked terrible to be honest with
Yes.
you.
And
Like
then three, like it was to me very noticeable that you're like the main if I'm watching a superhero film, I should realistically believe this hero is able to overcome the obstacle you're putting ahead of them. There were a few moments in this film where I'm watching this and going, hey, love Falcon, love that he's Captain America now. But I know he should not be getting power bombed by regular human beings. And no, and now that you've shown me him getting power bombed by a regular human being at the beginning of the film, I find it very hard to believe that he's now going toe to toe with a Hulk
with the Hulk.
who's swinging things at him and he's catching them and with a jet propeller is trying to push off
Yeah.
and is actually offering resistance. Now I'm calling BS on that. So there are flaws in this film, yes, but overall, I actually did enjoy this because we have harped on the negatives a little bit. That's why I just wanted to give that synopsis and then kind of get into the positives a little bit. Few things that I really
Well, hold on.
liked.
Let's stay on the negatives real quick. And no, so I'm only saying
this is what thriving off negativity looks like, ladies and gentlemen.
I only say this because this is something I want to bring up. Like, so
Oh yeah,
I
no, go
noticed
ahead.
immediately when a movie opened was the CGI. I do not think the like
That
and
is
you said
that
this
is
because
another
of the
fair
leader's
criticism.
look, but
Yeah,
the CGI as a whole in this movie was
yeah.
kind of terrible.
No, that is a fair
It was
criticism. Actually,
very
you're right. I'm
bad.
actually glad you brought that up. Yeah,
I think there were a lot of times in a movie where it didn't feel polished.
yeah.
And I'll say even that opening scene where he comes into the compound and he flies down and then like he just stops.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, one, this nigga's leg should be broken.
Yep.
Because they don't mention it. They never mention like why he's able to sustain that force. And again, if they would have said something like,
Because he's Captain America, that's why.
If they would have said something like the tech that the Wakandans gave you,
Yeah,
really helps you. Then when he's fighting the Red Hulk at the end and he's kicking him, I'm like, okay, this makes more sense why he's able to do that kind of damage. But then, like you said, then they turn around, he gets his ass beat by this regular ass. I mean, again, I don't want to say regular ass because the dude he's fighting is a fucking giant.
but
But
he's a human.
he's a regular human.
He's a
Where
human being.
Steve Rogers is fucking up a regular human. I don't care who it is, how strong they are. I say that, but also he did have problems with I don't want to say he had problems, but he didn't beat up what's a Baccarat or
Oh, you talking about old dude at the beginning of Winter
GSP?
Soldier? So here's the reason why I'm not. To me, here's the reason why those two things are the same thing. No, not because of GSP. I mean, well, maybe because of GSP. I ain't gonna lie, but more so because if you watch that fight, yes, Cap didn't just straight up beat his ass. No, but Cap wasn't struggling with him.
He wasn't struggling, and I
Cap was not struggling in that fight. He was damn near toying with him, like
toying with him, which is
shit. Let me see. Oh, you got a little something. All right, let me piece you up real quick now because I'm Captain America and you're not. This was I'm actually trying to beat you, but you're whooping my ass. Those are different things. Those are different things.
People have mentioned. I've seen people mention it online. The nanotech helmets.
Yeah.
So I actually hated that. And then like he had the goggles on at this point, but like, dude, just keep a helmet and just keep it on. Again, it could have showcased all of this, and it could have been a practical helmet. But again, it looked terrible. All of the CGI, I think, I don't want to say all, but the majority of the CGI in this movie looked terrible. Most of the time, it was surrounding sound, but even some of the footage with Harrison Ford as Red Hulk, or even just him as Harrison Ford when he's doing things, and you're looking at him, you're like, I don't know what's off, but something is off.
Yeah.
Something looks really weird about this CGI. And then when I seen the leader, I'm like, okay, no, I'm not tripping. This looks bad.
The leader's design is where it became like very noticeable for me. The CGI, I was like, ooh, this is not. I don't really know what I was expecting the leader to look like, but that's not it. And that design, coupled with I think the CGI surrounding Red Hulk, was very spotty as well. Like that's where I was like, your CGI doesn't necessarily have to be 100% perfect all the time, right? Marvel is like 30-some movies in at this point, so
but it should not be bad at all. It
shouldn't be. But if it's going to be bad, it shouldn't be bad with your two main villains.
Right.
Like if it's going to be bad, those are the two things those should be polished. I can forgive bad CGI in other areas a little bit. I'm gonna still criticize it, but it won't be as noticeable for me versus with your two main villains who are getting a lot of screen time.
And then
to me, that's very noticeable.
That's all I got for CGI, but I got two more things.
Okay.
Two more things, and I'm done with the negativity. I hope.
Fingers crossed.
So it's never explained again. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we know he's working for the government.
Yep.
So it's confusing when he's like, "Oh well, I want to bring the Avengers back into the fold," and you go to the compound, you see the inside of a compound that they're in,
Hmm.
and they're in an Air Force base. Falcon and or I'm sorry, yeah, Captain America and the Falcon. They're in an Air
Hmm.
Force base. So
Yeah.
again, what is happening at this point? Does he work for the U.S. government? Is he, is he just helping out? They gave him a space. He chilling. We never get the totality of this relationship. Again, even
That is
from
true.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's never explained why he's just doing things for the government. And on top of that one, I think I forgot my second point, but I was going to say, I don't. It's not important, obviously, because I forgot. But that's never. It's never explained why he's doing what he's doing and how he's doing it. Again, where does he fall in this chain of command? And even Falcon, we see him in uniform
Yeah.
at the beginning of the movie. We see him in uniform. So why is he just able to go off and do what he wants? Okay, so the thing I remember while I was still talking, um, the fact that they're getting all this information, but the government was doing they were the government was doing a very shit job of finding out who was trying to kill him and
Oh
uncovering
yeah.
nothing.
I ain't gonna
But
lie. I don't think the government may have been struggling with it. I think Harrison Ford knew the entire time.
no, he knew. I think
Yeah,
he
he
knew.
knew. It
But
wasn't the government.
and that's what I mean.
Harrison Ford knew and wasn't trying to let that information get
But
out.
somebody
That's what
tries
that
to
was.
kill the president at
That's
the
what that
White
was.
House, bro.
Yeah.
And Sam Wilson the next day is like, "No, I'm pretty sure they did this over here. I got this phone where they called him,
Yeah.
and they not watching this motherfucker. They didn't say, hey, the leader of Serpent just escaped. Maybe we should go."
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, no, it's. I think that was very deliberate. I think Thunderbolt Ross knew and didn't want that information getting out because you notice like at some point you don't know exactly who it is,
but they
but he
called him.
calls and he calls somebody and says, "Do you have eyes on the prisoner?" At first, it looks like he's talking about
Yeah,
Isaiah, and then eventually you realize he's talking about the leader. So Harrison Ford, I think, knew very
he
early
knew, or
on
he had a
or he had a
suggestion, like he
hunch.
had a hunch. But
Yeah,
again, you got a widow on staff, and they talking about she's ex-Israeli
ex Red
government.
Room. Yeah,
So yeah. So
yeah,
again, let's again. I felt like they were trying to. I felt like they were trying to recreate the second movie, and they failed.
yeah.
Instead of trying to create a new movie,
Yeah. No, I think that's fair.
and that's my last negative
It's your
for
last
mine.
negative?
I
Okay.
think
Now
again,
we
I think my biggest negative for this movie was the CGI.
yeah. Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
biggest negative. I don't.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I didn't think that he should have been fighting the Red Hulk. I think he should have got help. But
Agreed.
I don't have that much. Like I said, I feel like we should have got more explanation about this suit. Yeah, we know it's Wakanda tech. We know some of it is nanotech. All of it is not. We know he has vibranium weaved into it. So again, it's just I think he can do some of these things. I don't think he can do all of these things, especially
Yeah.
without explanation. But my
I agree.
biggest gripe with this movie was the CGI. And
Yeah.
like you said, as a Marvel movie, and this being like the third movie, there is absolutely no way that you should have had bad CGI, especially with your main characters.
Yeah. You got characters that get a lot of screen time, absolutely. I
Isaiah
think
Bra-
yeah.
Isaiah
Nah.
Bradley running from the fucking White House, dude. That
no,
looked terrible.
that did look bad, I ain't
And
gonna
I'm
lie.
looking, I said, I
That did
can't
look
be
bad. The way he was
tripping.
running Loki made me laugh. I like actually audibly laughed in the theater a little bit.
It
Um
literally it doesn't look like Captain America and Black Panther running in Civil War. It looks like they were running in Civil War, and then somebody just hit the fast forward button just on
yes.
them.
Yes. Literally. Literally. No, that's facts. I think I agree about his suit only because he's not doesn't have superpowers, so you need explanation on like what how you're going to compensate for that.
Right.
Um, I will say moving into the positives now, which I actually have quite a few. I think Isaiah Bradley's story was phenomenal. They executed that so
It
well for
was.
the amount of time he was in the movie, which is why I think we should have gotten more from him. But as far his story arc is the best in the film to me by far, which is why I'm mad we didn't get enough of it. And I think Sam Wilson. I think Anthony Mackie did a great job. I think I was not concerned, but I was just curious to see like how would a film just surrounding this
Robert
new
Doc.
Captain America would be because he doesn't have superpowers. We know he's about to be fighting a Hulk. Like, what is that going to look like now that you're making him the central character and he doesn't have the help of someone else with powers?
This
And I
guy's
thought for the
Captain
most
America.
part,
His real name is Clarence.
yeah, this um, God damn, I need someone to make that edit. I ain't gonna lie to you. Shit, I can't unsee that now. Like I'm actually replaying the end of 8 Mile in my head. So I think that for the most part, they did a good enough job with showcasing this new version of Captain America and as making him feel as close to a solo hero as you can, given the fact that we've seen him in a side character role for so long. And I think that's an important piece to it,
Being
right?
bumped up.
Like that's an important piece to it. Like it'd be one thing if you're just introducing us to a new version of this character that we hadn't seen, but we've seen Sam Wilson in the MCU now for all of phase one, the entirety of a phase from the second Captain America all the way to Endgame. We've seen Sam Wilson in the MCU as a side character. So that's however Captain America 2 came out, 2014, and Endgame came out in I think 2019, right? So that's if
Sure.
I'm not mistaken, that's a wide stretch. And that's not even including the appearances he's made after that and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and all of that, right? So we're used to seeing him as a side character. So I think this film did a good job of taking a character that the audience perceives as a sidekick or a side character and building him up in a way that no, this person can carry their own movie and this person can be a character that is interesting and can get audiences engaged. I thought they did a good job with Sam Wilson, in my opinion. And then, of course, Harrison Ford, when he's not Red Hulk, kills it because
No,
it's Harrison Ford.
listen. Same way. I don't know. I was just seeing a bunch of stuff about Anthony Mackie. Like I know somebody said he's like, I hated him as Falcon. He's like, I have no reason to hate him. His only reason for hating him as Falcon was he played Tupac in a Notorious movie. And he's like, I hated it. That was terrible
That
casting.
performance was terrible, but like, what does that have to do with?
But that's why I say like, so he's like, it doesn't make sense for the movie, but he's
Yeah,
like, I just can't get over his acting
get over
from
it.
that.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
I'll go into the movie watching. I'm like, okay, and now I just see his little, Anthony Mackie has that fucking goofy ass face whenever he's doing something. He's like have like trying to hold in a laugh.
Nah, facts.
So the
That's
entire
facts.
time I'm watching it and I see it, but then
Yeah.
he starts speaking, without the mask on. And you're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
he's delivering a good performance,
Yeah.
and then it bounces back to Harrison Ford. Every single one. So what I did like about Harrison Ford, I'm glad you mentioned it when he wasn't when he was Thunderbolt and not Red Hulk, was each scene he gets increasingly more angry.
You see it. You see
You
the
see it.
breadcrumbs are planted on him turning into Red Hulk throughout the
Right.
film. You
And
see it.
so the only thing that I'm like, I wish somebody would have mentioned something. And they did say like he's under a lot of pressure right now, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't start until after he's almost assassinated.
I mean,
I think
getting almost assassinated is a lot of pressure.
it is.
Yeah.
But he never really calms down. And he
Yeah.
calms down, but then like
Something happens and it'll
it
get him
wrapped up
revved
so
back
much
up.
quicker. And I
Yeah.
think if somebody would have the same woman that Sam was talking to, the Secret Service agent, she's like, hey, even if she just mentioned it to Harrison Ford at that point, like, you've been a lot more angry lately, this and this and
Mm-hmm.
this. I did want to bring up one thing. I did have a negative. I would have liked to see why Bucky left. I would have liked to see him at the beginning of the movie, and then they could
Yeah.
have did they whole 6 months later. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
Bucky. He's about to do this. That's the
Yeah.
only thing, and it's not really a negative.
Yeah.
It's just, but I understand we don't want to focus on Bucky in this movie. But
And you're about to get Bucky in the Thunderbolts. My only reason I'm agreeing with you is because they said he's running for public office.
yeah, and I'm trying to
That's
figure
the
out
only
how
reason where I was like, hold on.
we know that this motherfucker, like the world knows that
Like the
he
world
is
knows he's a terrorist at
he-
one point.
bro. They said like the nigga more than likely killed JFK.
Like,
You know?
I was
So
like, y'all know he was like one of the worst and most well known terrorists in the world at one
right,
point, and y'all are
whether
letting
he
him
was
run for public office.
whether
I
he was
get we
brainwashed
the
or
audience
not.
know the audience know he's reformed because we
We see
are
it.
watching this as a film and we're with Bucky all the time to see his transformation into a good person. But if you're just a regular person living in the MCU, you don't have that context.
At all.
All you know is this dude used to be crazy, running around on a murder spree, killing all types of innocent people. He's Captain America's friend, possibly. I don't even know if the general public in the MCU knows that. But
Right.
you know, at some point he switched and he was fighting with the Avengers. But there's still that history of you went on a murderous rampage of all these innocent people. I just
It,
don't think that person should be running for public
yeah.
office
And,
successfully,
and you know what?
not successfully.
The only reason I noticed it at the beginning was somebody said in the Thunderbolts trailer, they said that he's wearing a Congress pin
Yeah,
as a member. So does he win? Does he win this election somehow?
you know,
So again, this
given
was
real events, I can't say it's that crazy,
not no not
but it is
anymore.
still
No, not
crazy.
anymore.
Yeah,
So beforehand, I would have I said that this would have been this was my most anticipated movie of the year.
yeah,
Um, and it still was, but I think now it is the Thunderbolts. I know yours is probably Fantastic Four.
yeah. Absolutely, it's
Um,
Fantastic Four.
mine is mine is still Marvel movie is going to be Thunderbolts right now to see this fleshed out again, see the story
Yeah,
fleshed out. Um,
and to see Century.
I can do without them again
Wow.
because so and I
I'm
say
curious
that
to see how they're going to do that because you have to nerf Century in order for the
that's why
Thunderbolts
I
to
say
fight
that
him.
again because
You have to
again
nerf
if
him.
we're looking at
They
we're
nerfed
looking
Red Hulk.
at Falcon fighting Hulk as a thing
They nerfed Hulk so crazy.
or Red Hulk,
They really nerfed him. Like
how the
that was
fuck
bothering me how
this
much
is
they nerfed Hulk.
the Thunderbolts is basically the Suicide Squad without anybody with magic powers. So let's say Harley Quinn,
Yeah.
Peacemaker, what was Idris Elba person?
Oh, don't give me the lion.
I forget his name, but
Yeah, those were D level characters that James
yeah,
Gunn
but
pulled
like
out for that
think
film.
about any of the Suicide Squad members that doesn't have magic and doesn't aren't metahumans.
Mm-hmm.
So just the people that use guns fighting Superman. How do you
Yeah,
and again, so again, where we got the hero being the underpowered one in this movie, even in terms of intellect with
yeah,
the leader.
yeah.
Now you have it the opposite way. Again, they're not heroes, but they're anti-heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
You got these underpowered heroes fighting off against and I really don't want to say villain because Century has been both. He's been a
he's
villain.
been both. Yeah,
He's been a villain. He's been a hero. He's been an anti-hero. So we don't know how this movie is going to portray him, but it's giving the same thing.
I mean, it
Um,
looked like he's just going on a murdering spree in New York from the way the trailer looks. So I think it's very clear what they're going to be portraying him as, turning niggas
but
into shadows and shit.
I did like I said, we talked about Harrison Ford. We talked about Anthony Mackie. I like the addition to Sam Wilson
Yeah,
because again, he's not. I mean, as much as you want to say, Captain America didn't do anything on his own.
yeah.
He did every time he did something. He did something with. I'm gonna go as long as say he did things with along with a team. A
Every
team of
movie
people helped
from
him every
all
time.
three films. Yeah,
Even when you look at the Winter Soldier, you had Natasha with him at the beginning, and
yeah,
then it was Sam came along. You
yeah.
had Nick Fury at some point. So this entire time he has help. And again, we mentioned this. Sam had Falcon.
Yeah.
And then he had the widow, which again, I honestly they could have kept that shit.
Both those characters are pretty weak to me. I'm not gonna lie.
And that's my point.
Yeah, both
He
those
did not
characters
have
are pretty
a
weak.
strong supporting team.
Yeah,
Again, Captain America's Captain America was or Steve Rogers as Captain America has a super serum,
yeah,
and that's why he is that's why he's strong. That's why he's able to do things with people that are underpowered and utilize them as I don't want to say accessories or utilize their skills and expertise, and you're like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you just have a bunch of regular ass people and they're trying to face off against a fucking Red Hulk, again, I was expecting anyone, somebody, to come help him fight him. That and I don't know how much of the Ultimate Universe you follow, but
Not too much.
in one of the Ultimate Universes, fucking Captain America dog walks the Hulk. Dog walks him.
Steve
And
Rogers dogs walk the dog.
Steve Rogers, Captain America,
Okay.
dog walks him. And I'm pissed in because again, I'm like, yo, he would crush. Again, Captain America is agile; he can get around him. But if he
Mm.
smacks him, it's over.
Over with.
And
Yeah.
again, we seen that in this movie. We seen him basically smack Sam, and Sam is able to cover a lot of times with his wings.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think we didn't have a lot of information about his suit, the vibranium. And I don't if I recall in the last fight scene, was he wearing his white suit still, or is he back in the blue?
I believe it was white.
Because he switched suits, and that's another thing they didn't really
Yeah.
explain why. Like, why did you take this suit instead of?
Yeah.
But again, I did like the supporting characters. You said it already. Isaiah Bradley was the most interesting side character
By far, and he did not get enough screen time.
not get
but
enough of him.
when he was on screen, though, it worked.
I would have liked to see
When
his grandson mentioned at any point.
I thought he was going to be in this movie. Honestly, I really thought he was going to be in this movie.
That's who I thought they were going to have in, because he's supposed to have some remnants of the super serum in him.
Isn't his grandson an actual character in Marvel Comics? Like, isn't he a hero?
He becomes Patriot.
Patriot. I'm not gonna lie. I think Patriot would have been a much better side character for Sam Wilson than this iteration of Falcon. And not necessarily to say this iteration of Falcon was like bad, right? Like, he wasn't terrible. He just wasn't interesting at all. He was just there. Like, it was just like, oh, Sam needs a sidekick, so let's just put this character in here. You don't get really any information about who he is as a person. He's not fleshed out at all. You don't know about his backstory or how he became Falcon, or you just have no context. This character just shows up and he's Falcon, and the audience just said, "Here you go."
I do want to say to that one. They mentioned some things in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Captain America and the Winter Soldier, when he is still just regular Air Force, just helping him. He does make references, and I think they do mention something at the end.
They do flesh in that show, yes. In that show, that character is fleshed out a little bit more. But in this film,
way more.
Yeah, in this film, it's just like, oh, okay, we're here.
But I also think that I think them doing the whole practical thing, or grounded as much as you can ground a superhero movie. Thing that they're doing with Sam Wilson, and it is kind of does not help. Because in the comics, Sam Wilson has powers, Fucking Red Wing is an actual eagle that he speaks to, or Falcon that he speaks to, and the motherfucker got wings. Same thing with I forget the sidekick's name, but the new Falcon. He has wings on his fucking arms.
Yeah.
So he looks exactly like the Falcon does when he was in Winter Soldier. He just has a little more armor on him. So it's like, he becomes the Falcon just like old girl Kate Bishop becomes Hawkeye. It's like, okay, well,
it's like in the same type of realm.
Yeah, like, again, him becoming Captain America, and Bucky mentions it, which I love. He said, he said, and this is why I don't want him to take the serum as well. He says, Steve gave people something to hope for. You gave people something to inspire to be. Because again, you're a regular nigga.
You're a regular dude. Yeah.
He got a little bit of tech that regular niggas ain't got. And he got a shield. And he's standing on the principles that Captain America is supposed to stand for. Yeah. And since we talked about the whole niggas hating this because he is a nigga, so he black. I do want to mention the comment
niggas hate niggas, he's a nigga.
Where he said something like Captain America doesn't represent America. He does not. he represents what America is supposed to represent.
Supposed to be. He's
And,
right. Like
and that's
if
what
you
people fail to understand. America, has a terrible history of not giving a shit about people. And
and Captain America is the exact opposite of
he's the
that.
exact opposite. He
Yeah.
he mentions it. You see it in the movies when he's standing up for people.
Mm-hmm.
His relationships with people. Like we joke like, hey, he went back to the '60s and didn't do anything.
He went back to the '60s and they help. They do shit for us.
And you want to be
Hey,
honest, like we
dog.
really don't see we don't. He disappears, so
Yeah,
he
yeah.
he may not have done anything, but he
To
may
be
not.
fair, he was alive in the 30s and 40s.
But
To be fair,
but
to be fair, he was around
he
when
might
shit
have
was
done.
worse.
He might not done nothing openly when he went
Yeah,
back in time, but like you said,
yeah.
he was alive in the '40s. Shit was bad, but also the nigga was in the army at the time too. He was doing missions or whatever the fuck he was doing. So
It was World
I
War
think
II, so
I
yeah,
think
I
they
get
kept
it,
him
but
they
still,
kept him away from it
yeah,
because
yeah,
again, that's not how they knew. Again, that's when you watch Captain America: First Avenger, they did not want this nigga to be Captain America.
nah,
They didn't give
facts.
a fuck about his morals and shit.
The
They
scientist
wanted
was the only one that advocated for him. Like, no,
and
I need it to be
Peggy,
him.
they
Yeah,
wanted
and Peggy. Yeah,
they wanted this big strong motherfucker because he's big and strong. I don't care that he's a coward. I don't care that he's dumb. We want this motherfucker.
yeah,
So um yeah.
yeah.
I
No,
think
that's the that's the gist.
I do want to go back to I would have loved to see Isaiah Bradley's grandson in there.
Yeah, I think
And
that's a key thing this film was missing. I
I
agree.
think that would have been a great introduction because again, all the Avengers right now or the next Avengers are children.
Yeah,
We
you
got
don't
Kate
really
Bishop,
know
we got
Ms.
Kamala Khan,
Marvel.
Miss Marvel.
I know they are
So
going to do a younger. I know they're talking about doing Young Avengers. So,
I think that would have been again. We seen him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
mhm.
but that was it, and we
Yeah,
didn't. It didn't expound. He could have at least been in that gym scene with
yeah,
them, and him showing that he has some type of strength. Again, I think that would have worked better than the Falcon is just like you said. But I do think that
I agree.
not giving
Yeah,
them powers as well is
yeah,
something that hinders their ability to tell a story with them. Because again,
yeah,
if they got powers, you like okay, this motherfucker got actual wings.
yeah.
I see why there's a little strength in there somewhere. I get it, but him fighting the Hulk as a whole, you like, yo, what the fuck?
It just didn't feel convincing that he could go toe to toe with the Hulk. At no point in that scene was I buying it. The only parts of that scene I bought were when the Hulk was beating his ass because I was like, this is how that fight would go. Like, I get he has vibranium wings, but that's a Hulk. That is a
Even that
Hulk.
fucking vibranium has a threshold,
That and
and
vibranium is not even the most powerful metal anymore now that you've
right,
introduced adamantium. So
but
that's another factor. Which
vibranium,
didn't adamantium was like. I'm not going to go too deep into it because we've gone through our review pretty much at this point. But I will say adamantium was just kind of used as a device to go, hey audience, the X-Men are coming, and that's really it.
I don't even
Like
want to say it was a plot for that because it was just
it was used as a plot,
it was just
but
so
like not
unnecessary.
really.
They could have like you said they could have used and so I
You
think
could
they
have just
used,
said there's a giant alien celestial in the sea and we need his resources. It
well, what
didn't
I was
have
gonna
to.
say
It
is
being adamantium was just like
I agree
crowd
with you on that
service.
part.
Yeah,
That's why they use adamantium, but
yeah,
they could have used gold, they could have used silver, they could have used oil
yeah,
on this thing. It could
yeah,
have been any. It could have been made out of
yeah,
diamond.
yeah,
It could have been anything. And like you said, that they did use it like that to say this is going to be them. But again, they're going to. We've talked about it before. When the Secret Wars come, again, they're going to reset this universe.
yeah,
So they could have not done that. It could have been anything.
yeah, yeah.
And
Facts. I
it
will
felt
say
a
I'm
little
glad.
unnecessary.
Yeah, it being adamantium was, but in the same token, I'm not going to complain too much because I'm glad they finally addressed the fact there was a giant alien sticking out of the Atlantic Ocean. Like
Right. Like,
we
did
just
we
went so
forget
many
about
films without
this?
addressing that happened. So I'm glad that we finally addressed that occurred and that Earth almost blew up. I'm glad we
No, you
you
said
know,
it. That's funny. Blowed
we
up.
blowed up.
Uh,
Earth got
I'm sorry.
blowed up.
Did we get a timeline of how long after Eternals that this is? I don't
Oh,
think
I
they
have no
mentioned.
idea. No, they didn't mention that. I don't think they're going to. I don't think they really want to touch on that. I just think this was like a, hey, y'all keep talking about how we're not addressing this, so here, look, we're addressing
Because
it.
that makes it even worse. Because again, after Endgame, Endgame came out what 2021,
2019, 2019 was when
2019,
Game came out. Yeah,
and they jumped from 2018, 2019 to 2025 in Endgame.
yeah,
That's when everybody came back in 2025. So now we're
yeah,
at 2025.
yeah.
So again, you're like, okay, well, they're gonna follow this, but we've had multiple shows, we've had multiple movies
There's really no clear there's no clear
where we are in the
indicator of
timeline.
like where we are on the timeline right now, so they're kind of able to get away with it because they haven't like firmly communicated this is the years that these things take place. So it's kind of up to their discretion to say how long after. They can really say whatever they
Right,
want
and
because they
that's where
haven't
I'm
clearly defined it within the films for real.
and that's where I'm like, all we know is that these things take place after Endgame. It
Yeah,
could it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be 2 years, it could be three
we
years.
have no
We
clue.
have no idea. And
Yeah,
I'm thinking like this from everything. You know,
yeah,
we know about maybe Wanda and Vision. That
yeah.
takes place not again. We don't know when. We just know not too long
Yeah,
after Endgame.
yeah, it doesn't give a clear time frame at all. But go ahead and give us your final rating
Mm.
for Captain America: Brave New World and how you
So
feeling about it.
so again, I want to say again, I enjoyed the movie.
Hmm.
I didn't think it was spectacular. I talked to somebody the other day. I said, you know what? I watched it. It was okay. I'm fine with it being okay. It doesn't need to be spectacular. I don't. To be honest with you, I don't want it to be spectacular because I want two more movies, and I want it
And
to get
those to be
better.
spectacular.
And
Okay.
you can't when you drop a fucking A+ movie, the next one you get, and you're like, oh, this is kind of
Yeah,
it's kind of ass, and which is how
yeah,
people felt about Iron Man 3. Like
yeah,
people
yeah,
hated Iron Man 3.
yeah.
This
And two.
Iron Man 2 has done so much better. I think that was might have been the best one in the franchise.
We're gonna have to have that
100%.
conversation another time.
100% better.
With that,
Uh,
we're gonna table this and come back to
Because that's
that.
going to give
Cause
us
nigga,
another
what?
15 minutes before we finish.
Yeah, I was like, we're gonna table that.
Um,
Cause nigga, what?
no, so, no, so
What?
I enjoyed it. Like I said, I left out of there wanting more, especially
Hmm.
after the end credit scene. Again, there's no mid credit scene. There's only one post credit scene, and
Hmm.
it references the coming events.
Yeah.
Nothing that we have scheduled out now. No trailers. So this is all referencing to our Secret Wars and all that stuff. Um, I did like there was a lot of callbacks to the Incredible Hulk.
A
Um,
lot. That movie was
because
like low key required viewing for you
yeah,
to understand this, which is an interesting choice.
and because somebody said they're like it's a sequel to it, and essentially it is,
Damn near is, which is
but
crazy.
it's not at the same time, which is the wild part. But it is what it is. So they reference a lot of things. I think they rely too heavily on that because again, I think the leader should have been probably working with somebody, and the infighting is what would have gave Sam Wilson a better push than him
Hmm.
fighting the Red Hulk at the end.
Yeah, yeah,
I think Red Hulk should have maybe. I think he would have been better as still being a general than the fucking president of the United States
yeah,
and getting away with all this shit because
yeah,
we have doctors and shit now. They not just letting you take random ass pills as the president.
yeah,
That's not happening. Okay, so
yeah. Facts, especially
um,
if they have gamma radiation in them. Like,
nobody detected this. So like I said, I enjoyed the movie. I'm going to give it a. I just looked at the ratings again. I think I rated it a. After watching the movie on IMDb, I rated this movie a solid 7.
okay,
I think right now it's a 6.1 on IMDb. They have it, which
yep,
I
yep.
think that's very low. I think
Insanely low, insanely low.
you know
Given
I
the given where other MCU films are
yeah.
rated, that's low.
So
You're not about to tell me this is worse than Black Widow. You're like,
and
y'all,
I'm gonna be
come
honest
on
with you,
now. I see what y'all
even
doing.
my 7 feels low.
No,
Like
7 feels appropriate.
I don't know. I'm bouncing between 7.75. I'm honestly, yeah, I'm bouncing between 7.75, maybe
Okay.
7.7. but it's going to be a 7. I'm not pushing it
Yeah.
to an 8 because, like I said, if anything, the CGI alone,
Yeah, I can't. I
I got to
couldn't.
bring it
I wouldn't
down.
feel comfortable pushing this to an 8 for sure. So I understand, hundred
And then, like
percent.
I said, like some of the story was just not there.
Yeah,
And it did a great job of me wanting more of
yeah,
seeing um, Sam as Captain America. I loved, like you said, every time Sam Wilson as Captain America has an issue, it's never with the troops. You know, we see him working with the Navy SEALs and all this, and this, and we see him how he gets along with them and how much they respect him
yeah,
as Captain
yeah,
America. Again, remember, Captain America, Steve Rogers, Captain America was a soldier, but again, he was immediately given the rank of like captain, you know,
yeah.
as being a regular dude, and he
He
didn't do
skipped a
any.
lot of. He
He
skipped a
skipped,
lot of steps. He
yeah,
skipped a lot of
formal
steps.
military training that he should have had, like, and
Yeah.
experience that probably should have had.
Sam Wilson went through all of that. So yeah,
Sam
yeah,
Wilson was a veteran.
yeah,
He was in the Air Force. Um, I forgot what his rank ended up being at the end. It may have been higher than the captain. Him being in the Air Force and being the fucking no, he was a PJ, I think. Anyway, it really don't matter. Seeing his relationship with the I'm just say the military personnel and seeing how he speaks to people and how they get along. You're like, okay, the only person he had beef with in this movie was Harrison Ford and the leader of Serpent.
yeah,
Those the only two niggas they had beef with. And the leader of Serpent really, he had beef, but I did feel like that beef was kind of unwarranted. Like when he showed up, he's like, "Oh, I would have did it for free." It's like, no, you
yeah,
wouldn't have, bro.
yeah, yeah. Nah, facts, facts. I'm actually agreeing with you. I'm gonna give this a 7 as well.
I think this is
Um,
first.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, nah, honestly, definitely a first. I was debating between a 6 or a 7. I decided to go up to a 7 because I actually did really enjoy this film, and I think there's enough positives in there. I think the part of me that wanted to give it a 6 was just looking at the title of Captain America and going, "This should have been better than what it was." Because I agree with you,
Yeah,
it is kind of just okay. Um, but I know I'm grading. I know I graded this movie on a curve a little bit at first because it was titled Captain
Captain
America, and I'm
America.
expecting a 9 or an 8. So now that I've had some time to sit with it and really think about the film, I went up to a 7. Something I was at like a 6.5 before. I'm gonna say I think that there were a lot of things executed well. Like I said, Isaiah Bradley's side story was, I think, the best part of the film. I really enjoyed Harrison Ford's performance. I actually like that they tied in elements from that character from the original 2008 Hulk movie. I'm glad that they like addressed those things and brought that up, and that
They
that was
address him
tied
being another
into.
person too.
They addressed him being played by a different character, by a different actor too. Like, I'm just glad that they touched on the things that you knew about this character before and brought those over. Even the leader, like, it made sense why the leader's motivation was what it was
Yeah,
to go after Harris, to go after Thunderbolt Ross. If you understand the backstory of that 2008 Hulk movie, so there's a lot of things that I think they tied in very well. And then Sam Wilson, I think, did a good job with what he was given. Right, I think the film could have done him some favors and gave him superpowers, but given where he's at and what he had to work with, I think Anthony Mackie did a good job portraying
yeah.
that with what he was given to work with, right? So yeah, there goes our review of Captain America: Brave New World. Let us know your thoughts. I'm sure this won't divulge into a different conversation in the comments at all. So, but yeah, always continue to like, comment, subscribe. We always continue to love the support. And until next time, this is the Real Fanatics. Peace.